Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, and we've got quite a big set of stories to talk about this morning. The first two we're going to be talking about is Jesse Lingard's been speaking, but Paul Pogba as well, both wanting to stay at Manchester United. So we'll be talking about that. Rather interesting stories around that as well. Obviously, I'm aware of some of the stuff that's been breaking on social media last night as well in relation to Bissouma of Brighton. All I can say is that Prison FC have got a better CDM than we have. It's not looking good in that situation. But look, innocent until proven guilty, as I always say. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame if anything happens with that, because obviously if he's broken the law, then you must pay the price. But he was looking like a very, very good candidate for CDM. But maybe Manchester United knew stuff we didn't know. I don't know. But look, on to more brighter things that actually are relevant to Manchester United. Breaking news last night, L'Equipe or L'Equipe, or however you pronounce it, from France, basically saying this, that Paul Pogba is no longer hiding his desire to extend his Manchester United contract, becoming one of the best paid players in Premier League history. So Paul Pogba, let's start off with that. Jesse Lingard's been speaking to the press as well about his United future. But let's start off with Paul Pogba, because this story is a bit of a bolt from the blue. Quite literally, he's playing for Blue. He's playing for France, isn't he? I think they play tonight, actually. And it is totally contradictory to what the story actually is understood to be with Paul Pogba. But I think you've got to take notice of it, because he's with France and it's coming from France, that he is very open to signing a new contract at Manchester United that will make him one of the best paid players in Premier League history. So therefore this contract is north of £400,000 a week, because we know the best paid player in Premier League history was on nearly £500,000 a week. So Manchester United, I mean, look, I've done a video on the Newcastle takeover. The link's in the video description. Make sure you check that out. I'll talk about that in a minute. But Manchester United is really, I don't know where I stand on this. I mean, if you're going to give Paul Pogba £450,000 a week, everyone knows I really like Paul Pogba. I would not give him that wage. I wouldn't. Based on what? He doesn't even have a first team spot that he can call his own. Where is Paul Pogba's best position in a United team? And this is my issue. We're just chucking money at things again without thinking it through. Like, Paul Pogba should be a fundamental part of our midfield. We should be building our midfield around Paul Pogba. He was on the bench last weekend. He's been on the left wing for McTominay and Fred. It's all right saying, oh yeah, Pogba's staying at the club, we're going to give him 500 grand a week. Why? Why are we going to give him 500 grand a week when we've got a coach who doesn't even know how to bloody use him? It's like buying a Ferrari and putting it in your garage and throwing the keys in the drain. Like, we're not using Paul Pogba. Look, I'm not getting into the negatives of what people say about Pogba, because people will say, why are we giving him the money anyway? He's been here 6 years. He's been ridiculously inconsistent. Tell me, has he played 10 amazing games for United in 6 years? People will say things like that. That's not my point. My point is, I think Paul Pogba's a fantastic footballer, and I would like him to stay at Manchester United. But my concern is, it's just inept ownership again. Oh, here's a player we don't want to lose embarrassingly twice for nothing, so let's pay him more money than everybody else in the squad, even though he's not even in the top 3 players in the squad. And I would argue that. I love Paul Pogba. I think he's a great player. But in the current state, would you say he's in your top 3 players for Manchester United? On talent, yes. On what he's actually delivered in a United shirt, no, he doesn't deliver consistently, because he's not got a consistent spot in that team. We have never given him a platform to be Paul Pogba, and it doesn't surprise me, because the business side of United is rubbish. But why would you make a player who's not your best player in a United shirt your best paid player? I mean, what does Bruno Fernandes think about that? What does Ronaldo think about that? What does Marcus Rashford? What does Harry Maguire? What does David De Gea? What do they all think about a player that's not actually been that consistent in a United shirt? And that's my issue behind this. Why are we making him one of the best paid players in Premier League history? Because it's POGBA FC? Because he's popular a marketing tool? I want to make Paul Pogba, who I like, the best paid player in Premier League history, because he's the best player in Premier League history. And I think this is where United go wrong. We chuck money at things because it's commercially viable, or we don't want to be embarrassed. I want to chuck money at things that make us the best. If this is Kevin De Bruyne I want to make him one of the best paid players in Premier League history because he's one of the most consistent players in the last 4 years in the Premier League. We can't say that about Pogba. And part of that is because we've got a coaching setup that doesn't even know how to use him. Why would you make a player the best paid player in Premier League history when he's playing on the left wing or the bench and he's not even being utilised properly? So look, do I think Paul Pogba's desperate to sign a new contract at Manchester United? No, I don't. I don't think it makes any sense. But the breaking news is that yes, his desire is to sign a new contract at Manchester United, according to the French outlet L'Equipe, that he is and does want to sign a new contract at Manchester United. However, I didn't even need to remind you of this. Obviously, we've had Romano on the show. Obviously, he said this as well. Manchester United have had a contract on the table since the summer for Paul Pogba. Romano came out after this news from L'Equipe and reiterated that again, that there has been a contract on the table for Paul Pogba since the summer and that nothing is imminent on him signing that contract. So if L'Equipe are right and Paul Pogba wants to sign a new contract at Manchester United, why hasn't he signed the contract that's been on the table? And the reality is, this is just manoeuvring on a contract. I don't think Paul Pogba's about to sign a new contract. I will be stunned if he signs a new contract before January. It doesn't make any sense to sign that new contract. Even if he does want to stay at United, why has he not signed the contract? Because obviously the terms are not what he wants. So United are going to have to offer big terms to get him to sign that contract. And if Pogba signs that contract because the terms are very, very good, then he signs the contract. But to be honest, I personally think I would take a look at things like Kylian Mbappe. His mum came out yesterday saying that Kylian Mbappe basically wants to go to Real Madrid, and Real Madrid with Kylian Mbappe and 2 or 3 players added to that project become a very different Real Madrid. I personally think Real Madrid will be looking at Paul Pogba as part of that project, and Real Madrid and Paul Pogba might like that project as well. Whether they can afford to pay him the money, and look, this is where, for me, this is the key thing. Riola's very focused on money. Paul Pogba, I don't know whether he's focused on money, but ultimately, can anybody offer the wages Man United are going to offer? And if they can't, maybe that is where this is all about. Maybe that's what it's all about from this French article. Basically, Pogba knows that the money, he's not going to get the same money elsewhere. It's his final contract. United have got good players. Maybe that's what he wants to do. Some people think it's because Zidane's going to be our manager next summer and that's what he wants to do. But I don't know. I think that's a massive leap into nonsense, basically. I'm not saying Zidane won't be Man United's next manager, but right here, right now, there is no way that Paul Pogba has been given information that sign the new contract, Paul, it's really good money, and also Zidane's going to be the manager next season. That's not in the vocabulary of Manchester United. They're very much still hoping and thinking that Solskjaer will be the manager for the next 3-4 years. Do you think this is a sign of Ollie leaving and now Pogba knows he gets a place and hence the U-turn, or another Mino stunt, or just Glazer's stupidity, says Sarab? Well, as I said there, Sarab, I don't think this is anything to do with Ollie leaving. There is nothing from the club at the moment. In fact, the club really believe that Ollie's going to be the man that turns this around, so there's nothing about Zidane or any other manager that's going to make Pogba want to stay. If Pogba signs a new contract, he's signing it to play under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Which, on the face of it, is odd, because I don't think Ollie's used Pogba very well in the last while, and it's very clear that Paul Pogba's actually not happy in recent weeks with his playing time, or where he's being used. So it is a weird one. It's a very weird one. And all I would say is this: the news coming out of the French outlet L'Equipe is that Paul Pogba wants to sign a new contract. But add into that we've had a contract on the table for 4 months and he's not signed it. Add into that he's a free agent in January and no one's got to pay a transfer fee. And add into that he's not being used properly by Solskjaer and isn't even happy by where he's being used. The waters are muddied, aren't they? You know, it's very hard. My personal opinion is he will run his contract down. That's my personal opinion. I don't base that on any great bit of information that I've had in the last few days. I base that on information and conversations I've been having for the last 6 months. And I also base it on, if I was Paul Pogba, I would run my contract down. Because ultimately, it's his last contract. And, you know, once you hit January, PSG, Juventus, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid, you may as well talk to them. You may as well listen to their project. And you may as well see what they're going to offer you. Because ultimately, United can go, there's 450 grand a week. But Paul Pogba knows the story at United. He knows the last 6 years. He's been here. False promises. We're going to win the league. It doesn't happen. We're going to buy some players. We're going to win the league. It doesn't happen. So he knows the story at United. He might... I don't see why he wouldn't wait and see what the stories are elsewhere. Doesn't mean he won't stay at United. Doesn't mean he won't sign a contract here. I think United will chuck... I mean, somebody mentioned Glazer's stupidity. I think United will throw silly money at this. I think they'll basically offer money that they're basically signing him again money. Let's not forget, other clubs don't have to pay a transfer fee. They can offer big wages. So for United to keep Pogba, they're basically signing him again. They're going to have to give Raiola tens of millions of pounds. They're going to have to give Pogba a big signing on fee. They're going to have to pay ridiculous money. But I think United will do it, because I think United do these sort of things to save face. And I think they will offer silly money, and we may well get him to stay. Can you explain to me what a good manager is? Is Ollie so much better at man management that it balances out other deficiencies compared to others, says Philip Bates? I mean, I feel like I don't really want to talk about Ollie. There's so much to talk about this morning. I don't really want to delve into that anymore. But as I've said before, I think it's a bit of a myth that Ollie's a great man manager. I think he's a great man manager of the players he picks. Is he a great man manager of Eric Bailly? Is he a great man manager of Alex Telles? Is he a great man manager of Dean Henderson at the moment? Is he a great man manager of Donny van der Beek? Is he a great man manager of Amad Diallo? He's a great man manager of the players that are happy, but there's a lot of players in that squad that are not happy. So, a great man manager is somebody like Tuchel or Pep, who utilises 18, 19 players and keeps them happy. Like Bernardo Silva is happy at Man City. Doesn't always start, but he will start, he will play. And it might be a Champions League game, it might be a Premier League game. At United, there's 13, 14 players that are very happy under Ollie, but there's 10 players that are not, and they only get game time in the Carabao Cup. So I think he's a good man manager of the players that he picks. I don't think he's a good man manager of the rest of his squad. And look, I don't want to talk about Donny again, but is that good man management to take a Dutch international, one of the best up-and-coming midfielders in Europe, and turn him into a player that's basically a Poundland Tom Davies? Is that good man management? Is it? I don't know. Anyway, look, let's see what happens with Paul Pogba. As I said, I'd love him to sign a new contract, but I really don't take this story with any great credibility. What I would say as well is, let's see what happens, but what I would say is, I suspect there'll be another bit to this story in the next few days before Man United play Leicester. Whether it's Raiola, whether it's Pogba, I think there will be a little bit more clarity coming out publicly, because I don't think Mino Raiola will wake up this morning and go, I'm really happy that story's out that Pogba wants to stay at Man United, because it could put off potential suitors. So we'll see what happens with that. The next thing I want to talk about is Jesse Lingard. So Jesse Lingard is on England duty at the moment. He's been talking as part of that. I think he did the press conference yesterday. Spoke about the massive impact of Cristiano Ronaldo, of course. But on a more personal level, very interesting what Jesse has said. Basically said that when I play consistent football, I get goals and I get assists. Spoke about his disappointment of missing out on the Euros squad, and his determination to be part of the World Cup squad, and his desire to be playing first team football for both England and Manchester United. Absolutely no problem with Jesse saying that. I do think he's going to sign a new contract at Manchester United, but I can only reiterate what I've said and what many of you said in the summer. I get why Lingard wants to stay at United. He's been there, all his footballing career. Look at, a lot of his mates are there. Ronaldo's there. It's a fantastic club. You're there. The fan base, the lifestyle. He lives in that area. Everything in him is what is going to want to stay at Man United, and I think that's why he will sign the new contract. But, and there's always a but, I'll stick to what I said in the summer. His loan move at West Ham was fantastic. He got himself back into the England squad. He was one of the best attacking midfielders in the league at the end of last season, and he should have left to a club where he could keep replicating that week in, week out. If Jesse Lingard's at Leicester, or he's at West Ham, or even Everton, he's one of their best players. He gets picked every week, and therefore he's right. He would consistently score goals and get assists. And he'd be in the England squad fighting for it, and he'd go to the World Cup. The problem Jesse's got is that he should have left in the summer and done that, because he's now wanting to do that for Manchester United. And I don't believe he is good enough to play for Manchester United where he wants to play consistently. I don't think he's good enough. He's not better than Pogba. He's not better than Bruno. He's not better than Sancho. He's not better than Greenwood. And he's not better than Rashford. He's not better than Martial, in my opinion. But even if you think he's better than some of those players, it just shows you the sheer volume of quality we've got. And what? Why is Greenwood better than Lingard? Because he's 19. Well, he's 20 now. And he's just got a better talent. And, you know, he has. Rashford, better. Bruno's better. Pogba's better. But Jesse thinks he can be a Man United first team player. The danger is he could be. You know, Ollie picks McTominay and Fred. He could definitely pick Lingard. You know, he's more, you know, he used to pick Dan James. You've got a chance of being picked by Ollie. But can you consistently, hand on heart, see Jesse Lingard playing as a first team player week in, week out for Manchester United? I can't. I can't see it. I don't think he's that level. I don't think he can play for Chelsea. I don't think he can play for Man City. And I don't think he can play for Liverpool. I think he can play for Arsenal. I think he can play for Spurs. I think he can play for Everton. I think he can play for Leicester. For me, he is sort of, you know, a James Maddison type of player. He is that sort of player. He is not a top 4 player, in my opinion. He's a bench player for a top 4 team. He's not a consistent starter, in my opinion. And that's why, if he wants to play in the World Cup and he wants to score lots of goals, he should be going to a West Ham or an Everton. But look, it's up to him what he does. I think he'll sign the new contract at United. And I think Ollie will say you're in contention. But hand on heart, Ollie should be honest and say, look, I'm never going to pick you ahead of Bruno. So you're never going to play where you want to play. And I can't pick you on the wide positions because I've got better players. The writing was always on the wall with the Lingard situation. But again, I don't blame Jesse for staying if he's been given promises. But again, it's just weak leadership. It's weak, you know, you talk about man management. Is man management not about making difficult decisions? If I'm Ollie and I'm sitting down with Lingard in the summer and Jesse's like, I want to stay but I want to play first team football, there's obviously been a conversation that's gone, if you prove yourself, Jesse, you're in, right? And the reality is, there's a bit of a lie to that. Because what the truth really is, I am going to play you against Norwich at home and in the last 20 minutes when we're winning or we need a goal, but I'm never going to consistently start you. I'll lose my job. And if I think if Jesse was told that, if Jesse was sat down and somebody said to him, look, I will give you starts when I can, and I will get you on for the last 20 minutes, but I'm never going to start you game in, game out as a Man United number 10 unless we've got an injury crisis. So you're never going to be a first team player here like you want to. And then Jesse might go, you know what, I appreciate the honesty. I'm going to stay and see if I can change your mind. Or he can go, I am going to stay and see if I can change your mind, and if not, I'm going to go on a free. Or he can go, you know what, the World Cup's coming, I actually need to play, I want to move. So I think that, you know, it's a tough one because I think Lingard's really changed his career over the last 18 months, and I think a lot of people would quite like him to stay and be a bench player. I wouldn't mind that either, but it doesn't seem to fit in with what he wants, and ultimately bluntness, ruthlessness and aggression in football is essential if you want to be a winner. Look at what Pep Guardiola did in the summer with Aguero. It's like, you know, you're a good player, but I don't want you anymore. Bye. Even though you've been a club legend for City. I mean, they haven't got many, have they? And Aguero's definitely one. So that ruthlessness is really important, and I just don't think United portray that ruthlessness enough. But I don't. If he was happy to be a bench player, sign the contract and stay. But I think he wants more than that. And I think, look, Dean Henderson wants more than that. You can't knock these players. But I saw Dean Henderson doing an interview a couple of days ago, and he's talking about feeling good and he needs to prove himself. And, you know, again, being blunt and ruthless, it's the same as Lingard. I'm like, I don't care how good you are. De Gea's the goalkeeper. I don't care how good you are. Bruno's the number 10. And those positions should not be in jeopardy just because you want a chance. Like, these are elite world-class players who basically, even if they make a mistake, should still play the next game. That's what... Do you think Pep Guardiola is going to drop Ederson if he makes a mistake next weekend? Or do you think he's going to drop De Bruyne if he misses a penalty or doesn't score for a couple of games? That these, you know, the Brunos and the De Geas and the Ronaldos and the Pogbas and the Varans, their place should never be in jeopardy. And if you've got someone like Lindelof saying, I want my spot, I'm sorry, you're not as good as Varane. I don't care how good you are, you're not as good as Varane, and you're never going to get his spot. Even if Varane costs us a goal, I'm still picking him next week because he's better than you. And I think that, this is probably an area when you look at it in the coaching setup where they're not being honest with players. Maybe the Dean Hendersons, the Victor Lindelofs, the Eric Baillies, the Jesse Lingards, the Donny van der Beeks, they're being given false promises that, yeah, of course you're part of the squad. You can be a first team player. But we as fans know they can't. We know he's never going to pick Donny. We know he's never going to pick Lindelof, Lingard, Henderson, Delot, Bailly. Consistently, they're never going to get a chance. But they're clearly being told they are going to get a chance, and it's not true. Of course, Ollie's going to keep him. Bruno can't play every game, and there's always the possibility of injuries. Lingard just needs to not be naive, says Sam. Look, as I say, if Lingard's happy to do that, we've got a really good player. But if Lingard thinks he's going to be a first-team player, I don't see how that could happen. I guarantee you, even if Ollie dropped Bruno and played Lingard, and for 3 games he was Messi Lingard, the minute he had a bad game, people would go, now get him out now. It was fun for 3 or 4 games, but now get him out because Bruno's the better player. I can't ever see him consistently playing. Let's say Ollie is Ted Lasso, who is Nate in United's coaching staff. Don't watch it, Christo, so I don't know. What's your thoughts on the Basuma news, says Wazara. And morning, Mark. If Lingard plays like how he played for West Ham, he should start. Ahead of who? Mikhail. Let's have the experiment. Ruthlessness. Ahead of who? Player plays well for West Ham, therefore we drop Pogba or Rashford or Bruno. Come on, it's West Ham. I don't like that sort of a comment because I think it betrays a lack of knowledge of the Premier League. A player that plays at number 10 for West Ham is a world away from a player that plays as a number 10 for a Man City or a United or a Chelsea. You go and play for West Ham, teams are going to attack you, which means you're going to get space to run into. It's perfect for Jesse. You play as a number 10 for United, they're going to sit deep. You're not going to spin into space. You've got to be a creator. You've got to be clever. You've got to be intricate. That's not really Jesse's game. So you're telling me because he played for West Ham, you're going to drop Bruno. No, not for me. No successful manager is ever 100% truthful with their players. Otherwise, there'd never be senior players on the bench. Only youth team players, says Sam Brox. I disagree, Sam. I disagree. I've played football. I played at an okay level. It doesn't matter anyway, even if you're playing for a pub team. When I turn up and there's 15 players, if I'm turning up on a Sunday and I'm getting up and I'm hungover, I'm not going to go if I'm just going to get 5 minutes at the end of the game. And I might go week 1 and he'll go, no, I need you. And basically he's a manager who just doesn't know who's going to turn up. So, if he's got 11, you're playing. If you've got 15, he ain't going to use you. I ain't turning up the next week because I'm not going to be lied to. I'm not going to get a message saying, yeah, I'm needed. And then you turn up and you get 5 minutes because he's got enough players. Screw that. Leadership is honesty. Definitely. What do I think about the Basuma situation? Please smash a like on the video, by the way, and make sure you subscribe. Got a cracking video about the Newcastle takeover. The link's in the video description. Make sure you check that out. I think in the Basuma situation, you know what? Take away the player for a moment because, look, they're footballers. I'll judge a footballer on their footballing ability. Would I take Basuma at Manchester United as a CDM? He's better than Fred. He's better than McTominay. He's better than probably Matic these days. I think he'd be a really good signing as a footballer. There the conversation ends. Footballing ability, I'd take him at Manchester United. If he's done what he's allegedly been arrested for, then you have to take that into account. And United aren't going to go anywhere near a deal like that. And look, there's a Man City player who's, I think, in prison on remand at the moment, and these are very serious charges, and if they've done it, then realistically they should be kicked out of football. They should. And it doesn't matter how good a footballer is. Take your favourite footballer in the world and then imagine a situation where your favourite footballer in the world commits a repulsive crime against somebody. A very serious crime. Doesn't have to be sexual, could be a violent, whatever. Should that footballer go to prison? Yes. Should that footballer be banned from football for that period of time and maybe longer? Yes. Your ability against what you do in your real life shouldn't matter. And take it back to a level I've said before. Like, I've met footballers who are really great people and I love them as footballers. I've met footballers who I loved as footballers growing up who are not great people. It doesn't make me dislike them as what they did as a footballer just because they're not nice people in real life. And, you know, Juan Mata's a nice guy. I don't want him to play as number 10 anymore because I think he's dusted. So you do have to, you know, this is why they say never meet your heroes, because if you start judging footballers based on what they're doing off the pitch, you're not going to like a lot of your favourite footballers, because trust me, a lot of footballers in real life, they ain't what you think they are. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But I always say, judge the footballer on the football, and what happens off the pitch, you've got no control over. And look, you know, I wouldn't say it's a sad situation, because I don't know what the situation is. You're asking me, would I, you know, last week, would I take Basuma as a Man United player? 100%. This week, I think we need to wait and see what's gone on, because you're innocent until you're proven guilty, and we don't really know what's going on. So it's a very difficult situation. But look, if they've done something really serious and they're proven to have done it, I wouldn't want them at Manchester United, and I don't think any football club would want them. But, you know, as a footballer for Brighton, I think he would have been a really good signing. But you don't know. You don't know the situation. And as I say, that's why it's always dangerous to judge footballers that, oh, I love that footballer, he must be a really nice guy in real life. You don't know what they're doing on a Saturday night. You don't know what they're doing on a Monday morning. You don't know what they're like with their mates. You don't know whether they're an arrogant twat or one of the nicest people in the world. You just don't know, which is why I just judge them on their football ability. Ryan Giggs is the nicest person off the pitch. That's why we love him, says David Lee. And why not just get... okay. The Newcastle video is on private at the moment, Zero Blade, because it's going up straight after this video. It's going up at 11:15. That's why it's not live yet. But obviously I'm talking to people who might be watching this on a replay. So if you want to watch the Newcastle takeover video, links in the video description. If you're watching it live, you're going to have to wait 10 minutes. You shouldn't... Well, I've caught you out, Rahul. Videos on private. So basically what you're admitting is you're watching me live. I'm telling you about my Newcastle takeover video and you're thinking, actually, I'm going to go and watch that. No, you've been caught out now. You've been caught out. France against Belgium tonight, says the King. I mean, I'm not interested in the Nations League. Nations League, Poundland League. Couldn't give a toss, really. Not interested. For me, the Euros and the World Cup, I'm not interested in the Nations League. But look, I know some people want to consume football, so that's up to them, of course. Laptop and phone, says Rahul. There you go. But you're still going to have to listen to two things as well. Get your questions in anyway. So yeah, we spoke about Lingard, we spoke about Pogba. I mean, the overarching thing I would say here is that both those players appear to want to stay at Manchester United, but both those players don't have a role in the team. Whether it's Pogba or Lingard, tell me what their role is in the team. And look, for me, Lingard's a bench player. For me, Paul Pogba is a centre midfielder. But we haven't really seen Paul Pogba as an established centre midfielder at United for over a year. You know, when you think of it like that, Pogba's not had a consistent run as a centre midfielder in a United side for over a year. The last time he really was playing there was the end of the season before last. Last season started, yeah, he did play some games, and look, I think there was some good games where he played there, but his most consistent midfield pair are McTominay and Fred, and Pogba, Matic, Donny, they don't get to play. So I just wonder what the future is for Paul Pogba under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I want it to be as a midfielder. It can't be as a left winger. It can't be, because if you're playing Paul Pogba on the left wing, what are you doing with Rashford? What are you doing with Greenwood? What are you doing with Sancho? What are you doing with Martial? You know, you've got 4 players there that you can only pick one on the right. So I don't know what he's going to do with Paul Pogba. And I almost feel that I wouldn't mind Pogba being number 10 sometimes and Bruno dropping back a bit. I almost feel that Pogba and Bruno should be the two that are rotating, because I think Bruno can do damage from number 8 and I think Pogba can play as a 10. I'd like to see that dynamic being the dynamic that Ollie works on. But the same old problem again. To do that, you've got to have a very competent number 6, and we just don't have one. But I think that Paul Pogba as a Manchester United player in the future is obviously something that most people would want to see. And it's interesting because we actually put a poll up on the United stand today, and I just want to check it now and feed it through to you. It was actually about Paul Pogba. And it was, do you think Paul Pogba will sign a new deal with Manchester United? We've had nearly 5,000 votes already. It's on United Stand MUFC Twitter. 64% say yes, 36% say no. That quite surprises me. I don't know about you. That does surprise me. I don't think I would be that confident that he's going to sign a contract. Do you? Do you think he's going to sign it? I'm not that confident that he's going to sign it. So I think this story is going to run and run. And as I said, I think there will be a further story to this. I think there will be something coming out from maybe Pogba himself while he's with France, or maybe Riola will get something out there. I think it's very telling that, you know, that story came out about Pogba wanting to sign a new contract, and then literally next to no time after it, Fabrizio comes out and confirms what he said on this channel and independently as well. Pogba has a contract extension proposal on the table from Manchester United since last July. Long-term deal and increased salary. There's no final answer yet from Pogba's side and his agent Riola. Man United are waiting for his decision, and then they've been pushing for months. So this story that Paul Pogba wants to sign a new contract at Manchester United flies straight in the wind of what... And look, Fabrizio, Di Marzio, ridiculously close-io to Riola. Ridiculously close to Riola. I would imagine WhatsApp group close to Riola. Di Marzio definitely, and Romano I would say as well. They're very close to Riola. So if Paul Pogba was about to sign a new contract at Manchester United, it wouldn't be L'Equipe getting the exclusive. It would be a Romano or a Di Marzio. And ultimately, I think it's very safe to say that right here, right now, Man United are trying to get Pogba to sign a contract, but Riola is not looking to do that at the moment. So Riola will be going around talking to all the big clubs over the next few weeks and months, if he hasn't done already, seeing what's on offer. And I think I'm not going to skirt the question. Where do I think Paul Pogba will be this time next year? Where do you think Paul Pogba will be this time next year? Thoughts on us being linked with the Rangers right back, says Paul Smith. I've seen us be linked with him and Max Aarons. I'd love Max Aarons at Manchester United. I think he fits the profile perfectly of a player that comes in, a bit younger than Wan-Bissaka, but can come in and compete with Wan-Bissaka. I think Trippier's too old. I think Trippier's a short-term plaster. And what happens with Trippier is he comes in for a year or two, does quite well, and then you go back to Wan-Bissaka anyway. Surely it's better to go for a younger right back to compete with Wan-Bissaka, who can actually long-term take his place, if that's what you want. I don't want that to happen. I like Wan-Bissaka, but I think Trippier is a silly move. Why don't United pay signing fees instead of large wages? Would make more sense to keep him on some wages and give him 20 million than disrupt wage structure, says Duncan. Yeah, that's a good point. Salesh says, I think he'll end up at Real Madrid. There's no Twitch tonight. It'll be on this afternoon, Chris, at about 3 o'clock. Max Aarons watches your channel, says Sharon. He was on my Instagram replying the other day, but that's nothing to do with it. Max Aarons is someone that's been mentioned on this channel for a long time by you lot, probably over 2 years. Would I take him at Manchester United? Yes, I would. Definitely over Trippier. Definitely, yeah. I think he'd be exactly the sort of player. I mean, I still hold hope that Delot can be useful, but I don't think Ollie rates Delot. I've just seen that Ruben Neves is 4 months younger than McSauce. Goes to show you should be established in a position by that age. Yeah, you know, Joshua, we've said this before. This McTominay is young bullshit is bullshit. He's 25 in December, and we're still trying to teach him a role. Really, you look at what Beckham was doing at 25, Scholes was doing at 25, Ince, Robson, Keane, Carrick. You know, at 25, you're not still learning the role. He might be a late bloomer, of course. Look, Darren Fletcher was a little bit of a late bloomer, but it feels to me like we just think he's the next Darren Fletcher. With Rashford coming in, lots of things will get clear. Sancho gets back to right wing. Shaw and Rashford partnership is good. Pogba gets back in the midfield. Ender McFred, more clarity for certain players. I hope you're right, Pranay. Any news about Haaland, says Alex? No. I think United will be linked to Haaland. Ultimately, I don't think we will get him. And you know what? Pogba could go to Newcastle, says Akshit. he could earn a lot of money at Newcastle. I mean, look, he won't play Champions League football with Newcastle, though, will he? I don't think Pogba will go to Newcastle. But there's a lot of deals to be done next summer. There's a lot of people out of contract next summer. Mbappe being the biggest, obviously Pogba, Haaland's release clause will click in. It's not inconceivable that Man United will chuck a lot of money at Pogba and he will stay, because what if there's not an option for Pogba anywhere else? Of course, with Mbappe leaving PSG, they'll have a bit of money. They might go in for Pogba themselves. Real Madrid need to redo their midfield with Camavinga and Pogba and Mbappe. That would be a very interesting project there. So, look, where do I think Pogba will end up? I think it's a great question. I really do not know where he's going to end up with any certainty. But if you're asking me where Paul Pogba will be playing his football next year, I can see him in a Real Madrid shirt. I've always seen Pogba in a Real Madrid shirt, and it's a project he might fancy. But Man United's still a project. I know it's been a long project for him, but Man United's still a project as well. And going to Real Madrid because they need to win the league and get back as a Champions League team, it's a very similar project to what he came to United to do. So it's whether you want to go out of the frying pan and into the fire. Or he might just go, I'm going to go to PSG. It's less hassle. They're definitely going to win the league and they will compete for the Champions League. Maybe he'll go for more guaranteed success than a project. But yeah, for me, it'll be Man United, PSG or Real Madrid. And if I had to predict, I just have a feeling he's going to go to Real Madrid. Yeah. And he could be going to Real Madrid with Haaland and Mbappe as well. If Ollie doesn't win a trophy this season with this squad, will you be Ollie out, says Connor T. No, I mean, you can't answer that question, Connor. You can't answer that question. Well, you can, but I can't say I'm going to be Ollie out if we don't win a trophy. How can I say that? Because we might not win a trophy and miss out on the title on the final day, having played brilliant football for 6 months. So you'd have to give me more of a defined situation than that. I would say that if we don't win a trophy and we finish fourth, he would have to go. But I don't think the Glazers would do that. Real Madrid is a dream, no matter the condition of the club, says Akshat. And Mark, Man United has been a project for the past 8 years, says Himanshu. And Bayern still champions, but a lot of change, says Matchday Zone. Paul Ince is on in the morning, Salesh. He was meant to be on this morning, but he's in London, so he's back tomorrow. Ollie is a coward, says Michael Anani. Thanks for the super chats, by the way. And BVHV says, I'm French and L'Equipe are trash. They're doing this only to get Raiola to talk in the next few days. And I think you might be right on that. And also, L'Equipe have said a lot of things that, even as United fans, we know has been proved to be incorrect. But I do think we're going to get something from Pogba or Raiola in the next few days. Because if Pogba isn't happy to sign the contract, and he clearly isn't at the moment because the terms are clearly not something that makes him want to sign when it's been on the table for 3 or 4 months, I don't think Raiola will wake up this morning and go, I like that. I love that. I love that story that everyone's talking about, that Pogba wants to stay at United. I think Raiola will be, I don't like that story. That doesn't help me generate interest. I want a different story. So I think there will be a different story put out, unless it's true. The board may think it's embarrassing to lose Pogba again on a free, but it will be more embarrassing signing him on a new contract just to play McFred, says Sam. And what if Pogba goes to someone in the Premier League like Chelsea, says Vabath. We've not spoken about that for a long time, and I don't think we should talk about that, but in honesty, in January, he can talk to anyone outside the Premier League. So he can talk to Real Madrid, PSG, Barcelona. On January the 1st, it's legal for Pogba to talk to those clubs. And, he could sign a pre-contract if he wants to. He can't talk to Chelsea or Man City until the summer. I would be absolutely gutted if he went to Chelsea or Man City. But you know what? With Raiola in charge of him, I think anything can happen, but I don't think that will happen. I don't think he would want to do that. I mean, the thing is, Raiola gets a lot of bad press and brings it on himself. Paul Pogba, anybody I've ever spoken to about Pogba says he's a nice lad, and I don't think Paul Pogba would go to Chelsea or Man City, you know. I don't think he would. I don't think he would do that. So I wouldn't be too fussed about that. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video. And if you are watching live and you want to watch the Newcastle takeover video, that is now public. The link is in the video description. It is now public for you to watch. My 10-minute reaction to Newcastle's takeover and how bad it is for Manchester United. So check that out on the link in the video description. Smash a like on this one, and I'll speak to you all in a bit.